Good evening, and welcome to our TV show featuring documentaries revealing the realities behind myths using research and scholarship. I'm your host, Ergün Kırlıkovalı, and I will be with you every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're welcome to send me your feedback at #ethocide. Repeat, #ethocide. Dictionary.com defines myth as follows: any invented story, idea, or concept, or an imaginary or fictitious thing or person, an unproved or false collective belief that is used to justify a social institution. Some of the adjectives associated with the word myth are fake, fiction, fantasy, hoax, fairy tale, fallacy, urban legend, fabrication, hearsay, among others. Today, I would like to focus on another persistent falsehood that is at the heart of the flawed Armenian narrative, misrepresenting the events of World War I. It concerns the book entitled The 40 Days of Musa Dagh, written by a celebrated Austrian Jewish writer, Franz Werfel. This is the sworn statement of Albert J. Amato on the allegations that Armenians suffered genocide by the government of the Ottoman Empire. On this 11th day of October 1989, there appeared before me a notary public duly commissioned by the state of California, Albert J. Amato, known to me. In my presence, the said Albert J. Amato duly took the required oath and affixed his signature to the instrument as well as to the every page of the attached statement of facts, 9 pages, declaring it to be an integral part of this sworn statement. When the Austin Notary Public, California, Principal Office in Sonoma County, my commission expires December 1, 1992, signed and sealed. Albert J. Amato, residing at 413 Oak Vista Drive in the village of Oakmont, city of Santa Rosa, county of Sonoma, in the state of California, being duly sworn, deposes that he has prepared and hereby submits the attached statement containing A. Facts, B. Extracts from published and or authored communications, which disprove the allegations of Armenians that their ethnic brethren suffered genocide by the government of the Ottoman Empire in 1915-1923. These facts are submitted to oppose approval of resolution Senate Joint Resolution 212, introduced by Honorable Robert Dole, Senator and Republican leader of the United States Senate, at the first session of the 101st Congress of the United States. The said resolution seeks to designate April 24, 1990, as the National Day of Remembrance of the 75th anniversary of the alleged Armenian genocide of 1915-1923, perpetrated by the government of the Ottoman Empire. I was born in Milas, Turkey, on April 20th, 1889. In 1905, I was a student at the American International College in Izmir, Turkey. At the time, the Reverend John McLaughlin and President he was president, and I attended classes in English conducted by Professors Lawrence and Evan Jones. These details are to make it possible to ascertain the truth of my statements. There, I became acquainted and friendly with many Turkish-born Armenians, most of whom were my seniors. Because my grandfather, whose name I bear, had been the French consul in Izmir, I was mistakenly considered a Christian and a Frenchman. The Armenian students felt that they could freely discuss their membership in Armenian secret societies, i.e. Hançak or Hunçak and Taşnak Sütyun or Taşnaks, and their active participation in secret military exercises to prepare themselves for military duty in their planned subversive war against the Ottoman Empire and nation, in alliance and collaboration with Tsarist Russia. In 1906, a number of wealthy Armenians in Izmir were assassinated. Mr. Haik Balgosyan and his friend Mr. Artin Balokyan had been shot by two men in front of the Balgosyan mansion in Karataş, an affluent section of Izmir. Days later, the large establishment in the center of Izmir Bazaar, the Sivrisaryan wholesale dry goods warehouse and store, was bombed. Mr. Agop Sivrisaryan and a number of his Armenian employees were killed. The perpetrators then sent secret messages in Armenian printed lettering, threatening a number of Armenian merchants, doctors, lawyers, architects, unless they contributed the sums the leaders of the secret societies had assessed. The recipients would suffer the same fate as Balgosyan and Sivrisaryan. A majority of these addresses must have contributed. A few who evidently were satisfied with their economic, social, and political status did not approve of the plans for subversion and rebellion. They informed the Izmir police of their suspicion of the identity of the leaders of the secret societies, and that the Apostolic Armenian Church on Ermeni Mahallesi, the main Armenian quarters in Izmir, was possibly the repository of arms and ammunition for the planned rebellion. I witnessed the police raid on that church and the truckloads of arms and ammunition which were taken out. Also, the arrest of 5 priests and a number of other Armenians who were in the church at the time of the raid, including a few of my fellow students of the American college. Evidently, I had not taken the disclosures of my fellow students seriously enough. Also, I could not understand the Armenian logic for rebellion against a country that had given its ethnic minorities the right to observe and practice their religion, conduct schools for the instruction of their young in their ethnic language, and favored many of them with positions of trust. I knew of many Armenians in important positions in the Ottoman treasury, foreign affairs, and as functionaries as consuls. I knew of many affluent Armenian doctors, attorneys, and even a couple of bankers and architects. It was well known that the Armenians were the merchant princes of the empire, and that the Sultan favored them, especially because of all ethnic communities They were the only ones who spoke the difficult Turkish language as a second language to their own Armenian. Armenian terrorists in the United States and their duped friends have made it a career to assassinate Turkish consular officials, supposedly in revenge for the alleged Armenian massacre in 1915. Their prelates and leaders, and even our own California governor, Mr. Duped, have not seen fit to express their approval, and by their silence have tacitly approved of the assassinations. The leaders of the secret Armenian societies, Hunchak and Tashnak Sutyun, have continued their nefarious activities by agitating for the introduction of their alleged genocide into the instruction program of the public schools of the state of California. Now they're trying to have the Congress of the United States pass a resolution to designate April 24th, 1990 as the 75th anniversary of their alleged genocide of 1.5 million Armenians by the Ottoman Turks in 1915. I'm amazed that intelligent and politically astute gentlemen such as Senator Robert Dole, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, and others, his colleagues, have been importuned to sponsor that resolution without any proof of the veracity of the Armenian claims. There is no doubt in my mind that Senator Dole and his colleagues are honest and honorable men. They have been duped to believe the Armenian allegations as true. To establish the truth to the satisfaction of the senators, I'm submitting extracts from statements, in fact, avowals, by Armenian leaders in their addresses and/or communications with their adherents. These extracts and the entire statements are unimpeachable, and the veracity of my quotes can be easily ascertained. I'm also submitting statements of others, but especially of Professor John Dewey of Columbia University, who investigated the Armenian claims of genocide. A. Extracts from the November 1914 issue of the official Armenian Gazette Hunchak, published in Paris, France, by the Armenian Revolutionary Committee of the Armenian nation. This was a call to arms. And it goes: the entire Armenian nation will join forces, moral and material, and waving the sword of revolution, will enter this world conflict as comrades in arms of the Triple Entente, and particularly Russia. They will cooperate with the Allies, making full use of all political and revolutionary means for the final victory of Armenia, Kilikia, Caucasus, Azerbaijan. Heroes who will sacrifice their lives for the great cause of Armenia. Armenians proud to shed their blood for the cause of Armenia. Please note the date. It was even before the declaration of war. B. Extracts from a letter dated January 27, 1918, and published in the London Times on January 30, 1918, signed by Bogos Nubar, the recognized leader of the Armenian Revolutionary Federation, Tashnak Sutyun. This was a complaint that the Allies had refused to invite the Armenian Revolutionary Committee, Hunchak, to the peace conference at which the treaty between Turkey and the Allies was signed in Lausanne, Switzerland. The unspeakable sufferings and the dreadful losses that have been befallen the Armenian nation by reason of their faithfulness to the Allies, the fact well known only to a few that ever since the beginning of the war, Armenians fought by the side of the Allies on all fronts. Armenians have been belligerents de facto since their indignant refusal to side with the Turks. Our volunteers fought in Syria and Palestine, at the time part of the Ottoman Empire, in the decisive victory of General Allenby. After the breakdown of Russia, the Armenian legions were the only forces to resist the advances of the Turks, whom they held in check until the armistice was signed. Thus, they helped the British forces in Mesopotamia, at the time also a part of the Ottoman Empire, by hindering the German Turkish forces from sending troops elsewhere. Please note the reference to refusal to side with the Turks, the nation where they were born and of which they were a part. There is no claim of genocide. Then there's this, extracts from the manifesto, delivered by His Excellency Hovhannes Kachasnuni, Prime Minister of the Armenian Republic, established after the First World War, at the convention of the Armenian Revolutionary Federation in Bucharest, Romania, in July 1923. This was in the nature of a report. Here it goes. In the fall of 1914, when Turkey had not yet entered the war, but was already making preparations, Armenian revolutionary bands began to form with great enthusiasm. The Armenian Revolutionary Federation had active participation in the formation of these bands and the military action against Turkey. In the fall of 1914, Armenian volunteer bands fought against Turkey. This was an inevitable result of the psychology on which the Armenian nation had been nourished during the entire generation. The winter of 1914 and the spring of 1915 were periods of great activity, greatest enthusiasm and hopes. We had no doubt that the war would end with complete victory for the Allies, and Turkey would be defeated and dismembered, and its Armenian population would at last be liberated. We had embraced Russia wholeheartedly, without any compunction. We believed that the Tsarist government would grant us self-government in the Caucasus and in the Armenian vilayets, Turkish provinces where many Armenians resided, liberated from Turkey as a reward for our loyalty, our efforts, and our assistance. Unfortunately, Russia did not keep its word. 1.5 million Armenians are claimed to have been massacred. The avowals of their leaders prior to and after the First World War prove that there had been no massacre. Their leaders would have referred to it or claimed it as their calamity, or at least as their contribution to the Allied cause. The allegations of massacre and or genocide are a later invention to compel the new Turkish Republic to cede to them the 5 vilayets where they had installed the Armenian Republic, which they later had to give up to the Turkish Republic after a brief war. The Armenians have ever since been trying to obtain either the territory to add to the Russian Armenian Republic or a large sum of money as the price for stopping the terrorism. The Armenian people must blame their own leaders and their secret revolutionary societies for the subversive actions which led to their participation in the war with the Allies. They can blame Russia for reneging on its promise and the Allies for not giving them the due credit for their help. But they certainly have no reason to blame the Turkish Republic and or even now the defunct Ottoman Empire, as their own leaders confessed. Let us now see what Professor John Dewey of Columbia University has to say, a broad-minded Christian gentleman who went to the Middle East in 1928 to investigate the Armenian claims of genocide. This is extracted from his report published in The New Republic, Volume 40, November 12, 1928. Few Americans who mourn, and justly, the miseries of the Armenians are aware that till the rise of the nationalistic ambitions beginning within 1870s, the Armenians were the favored portion of the population of Turkey, or that in the Great War, the Armenians treacherously turned Turkish cities over to the Russian invaders, that they boasted of having raised 150,000 men to fight a civil war, that they burned at least 100 Turkish villages and exterminated their populations. I do not mention these things by way of appraising or extenuating blame, because the story of provocations and reprisals is as futile as it is endless. Finally, one recalls that the Jews took their abode in fanatic Turkey when they were expelled from Europe, especially Spain, by saintly Christians. And they have lived in Turkey for some centuries, at least in as much tranquility and liberty as their fellow Muslim Turks, all being exposed alike to the rapacity of their common rulers. To one brought up, as most Armenians have been, in the Gladstonian and foreign missionary traditions, the conditions of the Jews of Turkey is almost a mathematical demonstration that religious differences had no influence in the tragedy of Turkey, only as they were combined with the aspirations for political separation, which every nation in the world would have treated as treasonable. Professor Dewey had evidently not been told of the rejection by the Jewish communities of Turkey, of the appeals by the European Zionists for political and financial assistance. Insofar as the Jews of Turkey were concerned, the Zionist proposals were subversive unless and until the Ottoman government agreed to them. At no time did the Jews of Turkey nurse aspirations for political separation from their Ottoman saviors, who had received them when no other country in Europe allowed their either entry or residence. In 1922, in Izmir, Kemal Atatürk, when he captured 100,000 Greek soldiers who had been allowed by the Allied governments to invade and occupy Turkey in Asia, said, "Of all the ethnic millets, communities, the Jews elected to remain loyal to their motherland. Now, for a brief view of Armenian atrocities against Muslims and Jews. Extracts from a letter dated December 11, 1983, published in San Francisco Chronicle, as an answer to a letter that had been published in the same journal under the signature of one B. Armenian, claiming 1.5 million victims of genocide by the Ottoman Turks. Here's the answer. We have first-hand information and evidence of Armenian atrocities against our people, Jews, which preceded the so-called massacre of Armenians, which you allege in 1915. Members of our family witnessed the murder of 148 members of our family near Erzurum, Turkey, by Armenian neighbors bent on destroying anything and anybody remotely Jewish and or Muslim. Armenians should look to their own history and see the havoc they and their ancestors perpetrated upon their neighbors. Armenians were in league with Hitler in the last war, in the Second World War. On Hitler's promise to grant Armenians self-government if, in return, the Armenians would help exterminate Jews. Armenians were also hearty proponents of the anti-Semitic acts in league with the Russian communists. Mr. Armenian, prove that, as you say, a large-scale massacre of Armenians occurred. I don't need your bias. Signed, Elihu Ben Levi, Vacaville, California. Attached as the last page of the statement is proof of Armenian collaboration with Hitler. My friend Franz Werfel of Vienna, Austria, a writer, a celebrated one, wrote a book entitled The 40 Days at Mussa Dagh, a history of the massacre of Armenians by the Ottoman Turks. The story was told him by his friend, the Armenian Bishop of Vienna, and Werfel never doubted the bishop's account. Bishop. He did not investigate what Franz Werfel wrote. Franz didn't investigate what he wrote. Years later, when the true facts about Musa Dagh were established by the research of neutral investigators, which was never denied by the Armenians, Werfel discovered that he had been duped by his friend, the bishop, with a concocted story. Werfel confessed to me his shame and remorse for having written that story, in which he had blamed the Ottomans as the aggressors and terrorists. The truth, 50,000 Armenian residents of villages in and around Erzurum in Turkey surreptitiously ascended a mountain called Musa Dagh. Dagh is Turkish for mountain, with arms, ammunitions, provisions, and water, sufficient to withstand a siege of many days. Before ascending that mountain, they had captured hundreds of Muslim Turks and Jews, their fellow citizens and their neighbors, with whom they were supposedly on good terms. They murdered them all in cold blood for no other reason that they were Muslims and Jews. Thereafter, every night, armed Armenian bands came down from that mountain and attacked the rear of the Ottoman and German armies fighting the Russian invaders. This was at the very beginning of the First World War. and part of the secret plans made by the Russians and assigned to the Armenian Revolutionary Federation. The Turks were mystified. The Armenian attackers would disappear. Try as they did at first, the Ottomans were unable to trace the disappearing Armenians. But finally, they discovered that Musa Dagh was the hiding place. The Ottomans found the mountain fortress unassailable. They laid siege and waited 40 days before the Armenian rearguard conceded defeat and laid down their arms. But the Ottoman forces found the mountain empty. The large army had disappeared down the other side of the mountain, where they had found an exit to the Mediterranean. French and British men of war had been signaled, and they picked them up, picked the main army, transporting the soldiers, the Armenian soldiers, to Alexandria, Egypt, then under the control of British. Less than 500, the rear guard, who gave themselves up, were captured by the Ottomans. The rest escaped. Yet, in telling the story to Werfel to write, the bishop had claimed 50,000 victims captured and put to death. A shameless lie, an invented story. Just as is the story of 1.5 million massacred in 1915. If 1.5 million Armenians lost their lives during that war, they died as soldiers fighting a war of their own choosing against the Ottoman Empire, which had treated them decently and benignly for centuries. They were duped victims of the Russians, of the Allies, and of their own Armenian leaders. A few thousand Armenians may have lost their lives during their relocation caused by their own subversion. In making this expose of the truth and disclosing my home address, I know that I risk Armenian harassment. I have already been subjected to telephone and written threats. However, the truth must be told. As one born in the Ottoman Empire, from which I emigrated in 1910 and have never returned to live, I must declare that I'm not and never have been employed or paid by any government in Turkey. I'm not now and never have been financially interested in any business in Turkey. My parents died before the Second World War. My sister and brother-in-law, residents of the island of Rhodes, were captured and murdered by Hitler's Nazis, whom Armenians helped. I have no relatives or friends in Turkey. It should be evident that I have no motive in taking the risk, other than my conscientious duty to tell the truth out of my love for my native land. I beg the honorable senators and other government officials to demand from the Armenians proof of their claims, an explanation of the statement of avowals made by their own leaders. Under the circumstances, and in view of the fact and if proof, I cannot conceive that the senators can, in good conscience, pass that resolution. It is not enough to say that they do not mean to hurt the Turks or Turkish-American relations. By entertaining that resolution without proof, they are actually going against the interests of Turkey and the safety of the United States and of NATO. Epilogue. Both Senate Joint Resolution 212 and House Joint Resolution 417 failed to pass in 1990. Albert Emeto, a rabbi and lawyer, died in 1996 at the ripe old age of 106. He was my friend. He was a true friend of Turks in Turkey. What he did to expose the truth behind the Armenian myth will be remembered fondly and appreciated by all honest truth seekers. Where does this revelation leave us and the official Armenian narrative riddled with myths? Well, that's another story for another time. Thank you for joining me.